Welcome to the Together for Good podcast brought to you by Bethany Lutheran Church in Cherry Hills Village, Colorado. Our episode today is a prayer and study episode. We've done these before. You will hear a passage of scripture read for you multiple times throughout the episode. And after each reading, there will be a little prompt that'll help you think about this passage, hopefully from a different angle each time. And then after each reading and each leading question, there's just some music that'll be time for you to pray, meditate, and think. Hopefully this experience gives you some new insights about what God might be trying to say to you through this passage. We're going to be looking at John chapter 1, that famous beginning of John's Gospel that we often read this time of year. And so I hope that it's a peaceful experience for you during these crazy Christmas times. Just a brief word before we begin. I wanted to say thank you for all of your support and for listening throughout 2020. We are looking ahead to 2021 and excited to continue to bring you these episodes and this podcast. Please tell your friends about it. Share it on social media. The more the merrier. And if you think of it and have time, feel free to go to the iTunes store and just leave us a rating or a comment. All of that really does help improve the ways that people find the podcast. That's enough about that for now. Let's get into it. Here is a prayer and study podcast focused on John chapter 1.
A reading from John chapter 1. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was in the beginning with God. All things came into being through him, and without him not one thing came into being. What has come into being in him was life, and the life was the light of all people. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness did not overcome it. The Word was in the world, and the Word came into being through him, yet the world did not know him. He came to what was his own, and his own people did not accept him. But to all who received him, who believed in his name, he gave the power to become children of God, who were born not of blood, or of the will of the flesh, or of the will of man, but of God. All right, Solomon, tell me, what do you wonder about when you hear this passage?
I wonder about why they said God was the light.
Yeah, that's confusing, right? There's a lot of weird analogies and symbols in this passage, aren't there? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wonder about when it says what came into being through him was life, and what that means exactly. Life can mean a lot of different things in a lot of different ways. Anything else you wonder about?
No.
All right. Our musical selection for today comes from the Organic Faith Community, a community that I used to serve in Buffalo, New York. The title of this song is I Am God's Child. And as you listen to these words that are sung, and as you think about the wonders that my children proposed and the words of John's Gospel, we invite you to wonder, what captures your imagination with all of this? What questions do you have? What do you wonder about?
Precious and pure, precious and pure. I am God's child. I am God's creation, precious and pure, precious and pure. I am God's child.
We will now listen to this passage from John chapter 1, read a second time, and as we listen to the words of Scripture this second time, I invite you to pay attention to your emotions. Our emotions are often something that we don't link up with our spirituality or our study of Scripture, but we're inviting you to do that today. So take some time and pay attention to how this passage makes you feel.
A reading from John. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was in the beginning with God. All things came into being through him, and without him not one thing came into being. What has come into being in him was life, and the life was the light of all people. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness did not overcome it. He was in the world, and the world came into being through him. Yet the world did not know him. He came to what was his own, and his own people did not accept him. But to all who received him, who believed in his name, he gave power to become children of God, who were born not of the blood of the will of the flesh or the will of the man, but of God.
This passage from John is one of my absolute favorites. Yeah, it's one that we hear all the time. It's read every Christmas. It's John's story of the birth of Jesus. Even though it describes nothing about the birth, it's all about the theological significance of this idea that God became flesh for our sake. And what I love is that this reveals to us that we believe in a God who is relational, a God who willingly becomes like us in order to be with us, and as the passage says, in order for us to understand what it means to be children of God. It's that last part that I don't think we talk about a lot, right? Everyone focuses on those first 5 verses. The Word became flesh and dwelt among us. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness doesn't overcome it. But then there's that additional piece that we've been reading here today, where it talks about how the Word gave people the power to become children of God. You see, it's all relational. It's all about relationship. God becomes human in the person of Jesus. The Word becomes flesh. And through knowing Jesus, through following Jesus, through watching the way that Jesus lived on this earth, we learn how to become children of God. We learn what it means to be in close familial relationship with the God who loves us enough to become like us. It's all can be a little bit confusing, but the inherent message is exactly what we've been hearing in the music for this episode, right? We are God's child, precious and pure. And nothing can change that. Nothing can take that away from us. That is our inherent identity. We were created to be in relationship with God, to be in relationship with one another. Now that you've had the chance to listen to the passage read twice, some time for reflection and wondering, we'll read John chapter 1 a third time. And as we listen to this section of John 1 read again, I invite you to consider what God might be trying to say to you through these words this day.
the Gospel of John, chapter 1. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was in the beginning with God. All things came into being through him, and without him not one thing came into being. What has come into being in him was life, and the life was the light of all people. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness did not overcome it. The true light, which enlightens everyone, was coming into the world. He was in the world, and the world came into being through him. Yet the world did not know him. He came to what was his own, and his own people did not accept him. But to all who received him, who believed in his name, he gave power to become children of God, who were born not of blood or of the will of the flesh or of the will of man, but of God. The Gospel according to John.
May the God of relationships, the God who became flesh and blood and human for our sake, may this God be revealed in your life today. And may you never doubt that you are God's beloved child, precious and pure. This has been the Bethany Prayer and Study Podcast. Stay in peace.